Hello, I'm Jack and this is Entertainment World. Today I'll be talking about Mad Max Fury Road, which is my fifth favourite film. It is the fourth film in the Mad Max series and was sort of a soft reboot, part sequel to the previous films. It follows on from the events of the previous films for the most part, but there are a few slight little differences, but I'll get into all of that later. It was directed by George Miller, who did all the other films. I think it was written by George Miller. His wife did the editing as well, which is cool. He's, been doing this franchise since, like I said at the beginning, he created it back in the 1970s, and he had Mel Gibson and all the old cast and stuff in those films, and he came back and did this one, and he's been trying to get this film made for years. He finally got it made, and the film was amazing, so just going to talk about that now. Okay, so I'll be doing the non-spoilery, negatives, positives first, and then I'll do the analysis, spoiler stuff later on, after I give my grading, like I normally would. Okay, so for negatives, to get them out of the way, this film is absolutely fucking bonkers. And I mean, nuts. It's lunacy. It's so much action. The whole film's almost like one massive long car chase. There's a lot of weird visuals. The characters look absolutely bonkers. The violence is right up there. The visuals are weird. There's a lot of weird visual imagery. The cars are weird. Everything that people say is weird. This film has like its own jargon. The people in the film, the war boys as they're called, sort of have their own terminology for things, and it is absolutely mental. And if you don't like that sort of thing, you will hate this film, because it is just one massive long action sequence with a bunch of weird people saying a lot of weird shit, so you wouldn't like it. I personally like it because I think it makes this film stand out massively, but in a good way. And obviously the effects and stuff are all great, but a lot of people, there's a lot of people who hated this film, and there's a lot of people who liked it, and it's certainly a Marmite film. You either love it or you hate it. And, there's a good chance that you could be one of those people who absolutely hates this film. And also, in terms of character, there isn't a lot. Not many people say many things. I mean, well, the rest of the characters have a lot of characters. Well, Furiosa is the one with the most, but Max doesn't have a lot. But he never really did after the first film. He was just sort of the guy who wanders into situations. You follow him, obviously, because it's Max, Mad Max. He's the main character. But yeah, he doesn't say or do. He does a lot, but he doesn't say a lot in this film. He sort of keeps to himself, but that's because that is what his character's like. And you sort of rely on the other characters to have the personality in this, and try and drag Max's personality out of it, and he helps them and all of that. That's how most of them worked. The first one wasn't like that. First one was very different, but the 2, 3, and this one, that's basically how it works. And obviously, if you've watched the other three, you know what Max is like as a character. So there you go. But the thing is, if you just watch this one, you will be like, what the hell? So yeah, there's that as well. Okay. Any other sort of negatives? Not really. I mean, the pacing's a little bit odd. It goes very action for a bit, and then slows right down, and then it goes right to the action a bit. So I'm guessing there's, you could say that as well, but it was probably good to have a bit of a breather, if I'm being honest. So yes, now I'll be talking about the positives. The cast are great. The cast are really good. Like I said, the characters might not be the strongest in terms of writing, but in terms of performances, it's really good. You've got obviously Tom Hardy as Max, he's great, and like I said, he's really good because there's a lot of visual facial expressions, because like I said, he doesn't say a lot in this film, and he does it really well, and he portrays this sort of like depressed, angry loner who's just trying to survive as long as he can in this world of lunacy.
So I exist in this wasteland. A man reduced to a single instinct: survive.
And he does that really well. Charlize Theron is fantastic as Furiosa, who's an imperator to, I can't remember what the group is called, but she's part of the cult, or that is in charge of this area of the wasteland, and she's one of like the upper level officers, you could say, but she's trying to escape, get away from there to go back to her home, which was called the Green Place, which is where she was born but was taken away from, and then obviously then she ended up, it was part of this organisation, cult group, whatever you want to call it, and she's trying to escape and get back there, and she's also trying to take the cult leader's 5 wives. He's got 5 wives, which he calls his prize breeders, because obviously this is set after a nuclear holocaust. It's set, like I'm guessing a long time afterwards. So a lot of people are, dead. They've got injuries because obviously people have, attacked each other as well. And a lot of people who are born afterwards obviously are born with illnesses, and they're called half-lives. They only live to 2030 because of, the contamination, and obviously there's a lot of other things. And as they're in the desert and everybody's feral, if they get infected, obviously there isn't the medicine to treat it and stuff like that, so people don't live very long. So he's got these 5 women who are in perfect, physical health, and he's sort of like locked them away to protect them, but, more likely to just keep them to himself. And he's got them to, he wants a son to take over his empire when he's dead. And he's already got 2 children, but one's intelligent, but he's very physically disabled, and the other one is really physically fit, but he's got a lot of mental disabilities. So he wants a son who is physically fit and mentally fit as well. And, it shows what kind of person he is, where that's his requirement, and he's going to keep having children until he gets what he wants. It's a bit, barbaric. And that's his character, and that's why he's got 5 wives, so he can try and have the offspring he deems worthy to take over. So Charlize Theron's character is trying to escape and take the 5 wives with her, to get them out of there. And obviously he's not very happy about that. He's called the Immortant Joe, which is just a fantastic name. I don't know why you call yourself that, but yeah, that's his name. And he sends his entire army of vehicle nut jobs called the War Boys, who, like I said, paint themselves white and are just bonkers. They're just mental. There's no way to describe them, really. And they're half-lives, they're people with illnesses, and when they get injured in combat or are near the end of their lifespan, they tend to spray paint their teeth with a chrome paint, because they like to make everything shiny and chrome. All their vehicles are chrome, so they call it shiny and chrome, and everything's got to be shiny. They spray paint their mouth chrome, they say "witness me," and then they kill themselves in a way that benefits the rest of the team. So they're a bit, kamikaze, so they'll blow themselves up to blow up an enemy's vehicle or to kill an enemy or do whatever. They will commit suicide in a way that benefits the organisation.
Get up! You can do it!
So yeah, they're mental, and he sends all, basically, literally his entire army to to go get his wives back, and he also gets his other followers, because he lives in the capital, which is where they grow. They have a massive water supply, and they're able to grow food. But he sends his followers from the bullet farm, which is where they make their ammunition, as it's a lead factory. And he also sends the people eater, who's this massive fat guy who's a cannibal as well, and the followers there from Gastown, which is where their diesel, petrol comes from. And the bullet farm is the guy in charge of the bullet farm, and he's a nut job as well. And they send all of them to go get his wives back, because what happened was Furiosa was meant to go to the bullet farm and Gastown to pick up gas and pick up bullets, and he was also going to deliver mother's milk to the babies there, which is basically, as it sounds, they take women and just like use them to mass produce baby's milk. Like I said, he's got a really weird fucking thing going on there. He's nuts. He's all about making children. Don't mean like all about the children in a nice way. I mean he's all about breeding a super army. So he just takes loads of women and makes them, use massive breast pumps. He's got huge glass containers just filled with breast milk, and then puts it in an entire lorry. So like, imagine a lorry, they used to used to transport fuel in real life, yeah? Imagine that just filled with women's breast milk. That's his motivation there. He's literally transporting that. And also aqua cola, which is water. But like I said, he's got a weird jargon for everything, because that's what cult leaders do. They create words of things that exist, so his followers think that he's unique. He's not unique. He's just fucking nuts. And she was meant to transport that, and she had a convoy she was going, but she went off road, or off course, into hostile territory. Her convoy came with her, and were like, what the hell's going on? And she said, we're doing a detour. And they just, because they're a cult, just go, okay, she's in charge. And then Immortan Joe notices this, realises his 5 wives are missing, and goes, oh fucking hell no, sends his army. And then there's the big chase for the rest of the film. Her convoy realises she's trying to outrun her, her team, and start to question why are we being chased by? Well, one of them does. Why are we being chased by our own people?
Why can't you stop? Drew, out of the way! Out of the way! What have you done? What have you done?
And this is a bit mental. Well, I know it sounds weird, but it is weird. And Max comes into it because earlier in the film he was captured by the War Boys, and he's used as a blood bag, which is just basically, imagine, you go to a hospital, donate blood. Well, he's being forced to donate blood, but not into bags. Literally, they put it in him and take his blood out and put it directly into the other person. So he's literally being used as a human blood bag. And they strap. There's a war boy called Nux, who's played by Nicholas Hoult. Sorry, he's great as well. Nicholas Hoult as Nux, he's great. He portrays the character really well. Like I said, he's a war boy, so he's absolutely bonkers. Covered in white paint, black eyes, bald head. Likes to spray paint his mouth a lot because he tries to kill himself a few times. And he's mental. Or at least he tries to kill himself once, actually, but he gets his mouth spray painted a couple of times. And he's really sick. He's towards the end of his life, and he wants to do like one big last battle. He wants to die on the Fury Road, as they call it, die historic and be perfect. So he's like really eager to go help get the wives back.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
But he's really sick, and they say he can't go. And he says, please strap my blood bag to my car. So in other words, just strap Mad Max to my car whilst taking his blood out and putting it in me. Like I said, this film's mental when you try and explain it. And they refer to Max as a universal donor because he's healthy, so his blood can go to anybody. And they call him a raging feral because he's nuts. And they put muzzle on him and strap him to the car. And he's part of the chase, not willingly. Eventually he manages to get free of this. He's picked up by the Furiosa and the wives, and he helps them throughout the rest of the film, escaping the War Boys and the Immortant Joe, which again is still a fucking weird name. Immortant Joe is played by Hugh Keys Brine. I might got that completely wrong, probably did. Sorry about that if I did. And he was actually in the original Mad Max film as the villain, the Toe Cutter. Because, two films, two different characters, both the main villains, both weird fucking names. So, there you go. Yeah, but he's in this film again. Then he's not playing the same character. They're completely unrelated. But yeah, he plays the villain in this as well. And he's in his 70s. And he's like in this doing all of this weird shit, and you're like, dude, you're cool. I mean, George Miller, the director, I think was in his 70s as well when he did this, directed this film. And when you watch it, you're like, there's no way a 70-year-old directed this. And then you go, oh shit, he did. So yeah, that he did well in this. Especially like I said, being 70, director did well as well. He, like I said, just really cool. Who else? I can't remember all the 5 wives actresses' names. I remember Zoe Kravitz, who is now actually the new Catwoman, so that's cool. She was also in X-Men First Class. She's really good in this. She's one of the wives. Rosie Huntington Whiteley is also one of the wives, and she was surprisingly good as well. And she plays the splendid Ag Harrod, I think, and she's Immortant Joe's favourite, and she's the one who's she's really pregnant. She's like only a few weeks or a month from giving birth, so she's really pregnant, and that's why Immortant Joe's so desperate to get her back, because he wants her, but more importantly he wants the baby, not because he loves the baby, just because he wants a super baby. So yeah, that's his big angry motivation there, is he really wants the wives back, that wants the children back. Like I said, those 2 actresses were good. Hugh was good as the main villain, Tom Hardy's good as Max, Nicholas Holt's good as Nux, Charlize Theron is good as Furiosa. The rest of the cast, I don't know their names, I'm not going to pretend, although the guy who plays Young Striker from X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Days of Future Past is also in this film. He's good as well. He plays I think his name's Slit. I think his name's Slit, 'cause he's got a slit mouth. He's good as well, and he's Nux's sort of like assistant. You think he calls him his Lancer, and he's cool as well. What else is good? I mean, not what else is good, obviously I've just talking about the cast, but the effects are great in this film. I mean, perfect. They're honestly great. The stunt work is fantastic. Honestly, you see like all the people jumping from car to car, they've got cars with poles on them, and they sort of like swing from their car to another car to grab somebody or to kill them or to jump onto that car. That is amazing. The stunt there is amazing. The cars themselves were all sort of built for this film, made out using lots of different cars. The cars are all sort of random bits of car stuck together, and they're all brilliant as well. The people who built them deserve a huge pat on the back, because they did fantastic. There was quite a bit of CGI, for backgrounds and stuff like that. And there's a huge tornado scene, and unless they manage to find the world's biggest tornado sandstorm thing in the in the entire fucking universe, and then decide to throw a bunch of A-list actors into it, that was CGI, and that looked really cool as well. And the like I said, the cars are great, effects are great, CGI is great, stunt work's great. The camera angles and the editing's perfect, and his wife, I can't remember her name, but George Miller's wife did a perfect job editing this, and I mean, absolutely brilliant. And when asked, why did you use your wife to edit it, he said, because if I used a person who edits action films, it would look like every other action film ever made. Couldn't agree with him more. She did brilliantly, I mean perfectly. I couldn't been edited any better. Everything flows perfectly, all the shots, continue really well. It isn't too quick, it isn't, shots don't drag on, but they're not quick, like I said, they're not quick cuts either. You can tell what's going on. The cinematography is also great. I don't know who did that, I should have probably looked that up, but that's also brilliant. And the practical effects as well are also good, like when cars get wrecked, trashed and stuff, that they're really cool as well. So props to, literally, this film is, if you're going to watch this film for anything, watch it for the stunt works and effects, because it honestly is probably some of the best I've ever seen. Well, I mean, it is some of the best I've ever seen. I mean, there are some films which you could say are on par, but there's very few films where I'll watch them and I'll go, yeah, that film was much better than Mad Max Fury Road in terms of effects. That doesn't happen. You'll go, like I said, there'll be some where you think, oh, that's probably as good or nearly as good, but I wouldn't say there's any that are like better or, certainly much better. This film is perfect for its effects. The music by Junkie XL is brilliant. Junkie XL did fucking amazing with the music for this film. I actually like to sometimes just listen to the music from it, or at least one of the pieces in particular. I think it's called Your Brothers in Arms. Perfect. I mean, it's like I said, his score is perfect. It really suits the film. It really adds to everything going on. Yeah, it's brilliant. Also, the costumes and makeup are also brilliant. Again, like, every person looks unique. There isn't like two people who look alike, apart from the War Boys, but even then they have small, like, subtle differences, and it's perfect. I mean, they did brilliantly as well, especially for the people with, like, deformities and stuff like that. They did really well with some of those. I mean, they did use, actual people who had injuries or amputees. They used quite a few soldiers for the War Boys, and I thought that, that's a really, I mean, I'm not knocking that, I'm not, trying to make fun of that or anything. It's actually a good idea, and it's, good that those people were able to, go and do something. And I mean, I know the guy who's in charge of, like, Furiosa's second in command in the convoy is actually ex-Australian SAS. So, like I said, that's cool that somebody who's ex-army, ex-special forces can actually go out and do something in a film like that. That was cool. And yeah, I mean, it just shows that they were really trying to make the film be as best as it can and use as many extras as possible. They used a lot of extras in this film, and again, like I said, they gave everybody a unique look, costume, design. Although, like I said, some of them had some similarities. Like, most people have got, cancerous growth lumps and stuff like that, but like what they were wearing and their makeup and stuff, none of them looked similar. Their clothing didn't look similar, so they did a really good job with that. So I'm a bit lost for words, because there's just so much with this film in terms of visual stuff. It's really hard to, like, narrowing it down, because if you said explain one visual look in this film, you can't. You could only describe it as mental if you tried. but that doesn't do it justice, because that makes it sound like it's a bad thing. But to me, it's a really good film. Good thing. This film looks fantastic. It's got such a unique look. Like I said, the chases are great. The music adds to them. The cast adds even more. The stunt people adds even more. Using, like I said, actual soldiers and actual people who, with, like I said, physical ailments, again, adds to it. And like the son who is got the physical problems, the actor, I don't know his name, actually does have those physical problems. And like I said, I don't consider that, I'm not pointing that out in a bad way, I'm pointing that out, but it's good that, usually people with especially physical disabilities, can't be an actor or something they want to be, or they struggle to be, or something like that, because they would rather have, somebody who hasn't got physical problems. And I don't agree with that. That's wrong. But I think it's really cool that he got to be in a massive, big budget film, be quite a big character as well, get a decent-ish amount of screen time, and that's cool. I think that's really cool. And like I said, just everything about this film is really well made. Like I said, it isn't the strongest film in character, but in terms of visual presentation, visual performances, visual stunt work, visual effects, costumes, makeup, this film just is perfect. I'm gonna give this film, in terms of film quality, 9.25 out of 10. Because, it could be more, but like I said, in terms of character, there isn't a lot. Well, there is, but it isn't the main character. And if you're trying to, you could, like I said, you could almost say that's a negative. That the main character has the least amount of character. So there you go. The other characters are the ones with the characters, but that is how it goes with the Mad Max films. But like I said, the effects and the rest of it, I'm not going to go into it all again. It's perfect, honestly, brilliant. So 9.52 out of 10 is film quality and entertainment value. To me, again, like my other favourite films, is 10 out of 10 and beyond. Honestly, I can't recommend this film enough. Like I said, if it sounds a bit too heavy for you, a bit too much, don't watch it, because you won't have fun. You will probably get halfway through and be mentally disturbed for the rest of your life. So
As the world fell, each of us in our own way was broken. It was hard to know who was more crazy. Me or everyone else.
So yeah, I do recommend it though. I also, just to say, before I go into spoilery stuff, if you're going to watch this film, I recommend it on Blu-ray or 4K, hard physical copy, that is. Where is it? There it is. Here's my 4K of it. I do recommend it on Blu-ray or 4K, because I don't recommend it on digital, as like I said before, unless you've got the best internet in the world. HD or Ultra HD is never completely HD or Ultra HD. So I recommend it on 4K or Blu-ray. So yes, that's my non-spoilery bit of Mad Max Fury Road. Like I said, go watch it, get good quality copy of it, and again, it is 9.25 out of 10 for film quality, and 10 out of 10 and beyond for entertainment value. So definitely go watch it. Hello, sorry, this is one last negative I have, and I just realised this now, and I actually filmed this after filming everything else, so sorry if it's edited in weirdly. But my other negative is that literally nobody has an Australian accent. Well, maybe Morton Joe, but you can't really tell because you're wearing a mask. But Max doesn't, and Tom Hardy didn't do Australian accent, Furiosa doesn't, and stuff like that, which is weird, because obviously it's set in Australia, and in the other films, basically nearly every character had quite a strong Australian accent. So it stands out in this one, but they don't. So it's just a quick little negative, but I just wanted to say that because it looks a bit weird when you compare it to the other 3 films, but they had strong Australian accents. So there you go, that's it. So yeah, sorry about that. So I had to go and do some other stuff before finishing the rest of this review. So now I'm going into the analysis, you know, the spoilers and all of that stuff. So if you have not watched it, I recommend you go watch it and then come back and watch this bit. So spoiler warning now. And if you don't care, then you know that's your problem. So spoiler warning now. Obviously not all the 5 wives make it out alive. Splendid Aunt Harriet, who is, you know, his favourite, who is the most pregnant, you know, that past gets killed, and you see how that affects Immortan Joe, especially when he finds out that the child that she was carrying would have been perfect mentally and physically, and you just see how angry that makes him, and how it goes from just a sort of get my wives back to almost like a revenge mission, because he then starts to threaten the other wives as well. You know, he puts a gun to the other one's head, and he's using quite physical force to get them back. It's almost like he doesn't care at that point. He doesn't care if they're alive or dead. You know, he would prefer them to be alive, but he's beyond that point at the, you know, now, which I thought was interesting to watch. Obviously, Max as well is very tormented by the people who have died or he's killed along the way. People who have died or he's killed along the way, and they haunt him, and they appear in front of him and say, "You promised to help us, you promised to save us," and they like claw at him and stuff, and it, you know, freaks him out. And there's the little girl, which actually isn't his. I thought originally that was his daughter. I know he had a son in the original film, but I thought it's because, oh, it's part reboot, prequel, sequel, not prequel, reboot, sequel thing, and in the game he had a daughter as well, so I just thought, oh, they're giving him a daughter now, well, that's okay. But no, it turns out it's actually a girl from a comic book, which then she calls him Pa, and I don't know if they explain that, but that still confuses me a little bit.
I am the one who runs from both the living and the dead, hunted by scavengers, haunted by those I could not protect.
But I thought, yeah, I don't know what that is really, but I know who the girl is now because of the comic book as well. I mean, I haven't read it, but I know who I've heard of her. Yeah, and he's just very tormented, and he eventually, and you know, they almost hold him back from saving people because he's scared, you know, more people will die, but in the end he sort of overcomes it and, you know, fully becomes invested in helping the 5 wives Furiosa, because when they get to the green place, which is where she wanted to get to, she realises that's been like destroyed and become toxic just like everywhere else. So then she decides to go to what they call the Plains of Silence, which is just hundreds of miles of absolutely fuck all. Basically it's an abandoned seabed, basically, I think, so there's nothing there. And, well, an abandoned seabed, a dried out seabed, not abandoned. But yeah, it's... So, essentially, he decides, fuck it, I'm going to become fully invested, and he decides that what we do is we go back, we close off the ridge to block with the gas tanker they've got, we block it off so they can't come to us, they can't get through the ridge afterwards. And he's talking about, you know, Immortan Joe and his army, because all the army have been chasing them, meaning the capital is left undefended, so the citadel, so they can go and take over, because that's got the water, that's got the food, that's got everything they would ever need. And obviously he goes and helps them, and they go back, and obviously Immortan Joe chases them down, and there's the big huge 20-minute long climax fight at the end, which again in terms of special effects and stuff is absolutely brilliant. And yeah, again the music for that sequence as well was really good. And of course at the end they do win, they do get to the Citadel, and I like that Max leaves in the end, because I knew somebody actually didn't like that, he thought it was shit. But I like it because it suits his character, because he's a loner, he's that sort of person, and he goes from one story to the next. That is his character, and that's how it worked in the other 3 films. He just wandered off into the wasteland, into the desert, because that's his character. He doesn't want to become attached to anybody for a long period of time, because in the first film his wife and son were killed, and you can tell he doesn't want to go through that sort of thing again. So he wants to be by himself. I like Nux's journey as well. Starts off as like the most dedicated war boy of all the war boys, and then he realises the Immortan Joe is just absolutely full of shit, and he's just using them to get what he wants, and he doesn't actually care about any of his followers, because he promises his followers. He bases a lot of the religious aspect of what they're doing off Norse religion, so it's, Valhalla and things like that. And if you spend your life serving him, and then you sacrifice your life, the witness me blow themselves up a bit, they'll ride with him eternal in the highways of Valhalla, and shiny in crime, hence why they did with the metal spray paint to make their teeth go completely silver. So yeah, he makes them do that, and when Angharad gets killed, and he realises he cared more about just getting them back as their property than he did actually caring about them, and they were leaving willingly, and actually what a horrible person he was. He turns his back on it, and it takes him a while to get completely out of that mindset, because obviously he's lived through that. I'm guessing he's somewhere between 20 and 30, he could be anywhere between those 2 numbers, but he's obviously spent his entire life with that mindset. So obviously, and because it's only set over a couple of days, he isn't going to just completely switch off from that. Like, he doesn't know what a tree is, he calls it that thing. So yeah, so that's the thing, is that he slowly gets out of that mentality, and he of course sacrifices himself at the end. He still says "witness me," but it's not in a weird, crazy shit way. To stop them, to allow the wives and Max, Furiosa, and the surviving mothers, the mothers of the people from the Green Place who came with them, and a few of them got killed, but they came with them to, I only think one of them survived, came with them, back to the Citadel, because the Green Place, like I said, became toxic and was just a wasteland as well. So yeah, they escaped, and he sacrificed himself, and that was, it suited his character, it was a good end. And he also had a bit of a romantic relationship with one of the wives. Again, like I said, it's only set over a couple of days, so it's not like it was a big, long relationship. But you could tell, had he not died, they probably would have had a relationship. And you find out that one of the other girls, at least one of the other ones, is also pregnant, but she's very early on, because she hasn't got a bump or anything like that. So you do learn little bits about the things, and there's a scene in the when they were at the Green Place where they're talking about what was the world like before all of this happened, and they're talking about television and the fact that you didn't need to kill other people to survive. You know, there was enough for everybody and stuff like that, and it's a bit depressing when you think about it, but it was a good little character conversation sort of thing. And yeah, like when I said there wasn't a lot in terms of character, it was mainly just Max, because Max sort of ends up in a similar... You can tell he's happier and he feels more fulfilled, but because it's in Max's character to go back to being alone, he sort of ended off where he began, but just less depressed, if that makes sense. He didn't like go on a big journey, he didn't get a new family or anything like that. He felt like he achieved more than he did at the start. And of course, one thing I do like about this film is that this film has the V8 Interceptor in it again, from the first and second film. It was destroyed in the second film, and it wasn't in the third film, I don't think, but in Fury Road comic book, they say that his weird little thing he was sitting on in Beyond Thunderdome was actually the remains of his car. I don't know if that was the original intention, because it looked nothing like it in Beyond Thunderdome, but I don't know if that was a change or not. And in the comic book, they also go into him trying to actually get it rebuilt, his V8 Interceptor. And it's back in this film, and I was so happy, yes, his car's back, and it lasts all of 1 minute before it gets blown up again and does the big famous barrel roll, and then the War Boys take it, turn it into Razor Kylo, I think is what his name is, and turn that into a silver big beastie thing, which is quite cool actually. And then it gets destroyed again when Slit's driving it, and there's actually a funny scene where Max sees it all chrome and starts shooting at them, and he says, "That's mine." And early on in the film, when they're taking his blood and he sees the car as part of the convoy, he says, "How much more can they take from me? First it's my blood and now it's my car." And in all fairness, in a world like that, that's all you would have, your blood in your car, not a lot else. So yeah, he just has the least amount of character, but at the same time, I know it sounds weird, but even though he's the main character apart from the first one, he had the least character anyway. You know, in 2 and 3, he's like he is in this, just guy with selfish self-preservation motives, gets thrown into a situation that he doesn't want to be part of, feels bad, and eventually decides to stop being selfish and give a shit about other people for 10 minutes. But I think this one had the most impact on him, because I could see Max after this one willingly help people, because he never starts off really willingly to help people. It seems to be like a thing he feels bad over time. You know, he'll eventually do it, whereas now I can see him helping people from the get-go, not reluctantly doing it because it suited his interest, and then become invested in what's going on. Like, that is what happened in the second one, that's what happened in the third one, that's what happened in this one. But like I said, I can see in future him just being a nicer person in general. Not that, you know, he's living in a world where being a nice person is a good idea. In fact, you probably have to be a bit of a dick to survive in that universe. But yeah, it is good. You know, there is character stuff, just not really with him that much. Like I said, the villains were good. The Immortan Joe is threatening. He's probably my favourite villain of the series, because, I mean, the toe cutter in the first one was quite good, but because the first one is set in the slow decay of Law and Order, he's not like the other villains. He's not a big warlord, he's just a guy in charge of a motorbike gang, and he's a nut job, but he was a good nut job, if that makes sense. Second one was the Great Humongous, which, I mean, I love the second film, and the second film is my favourite out of the trilogy. The original trilogy. And I actually I consider Fury Road to be almost like a better version of the Road Warrior. I meant the Road Warrior earlier on. If I said Fury Road, I can't remember what I said or not. Second film. It's like a bigger budget, improved version of it. In fact, elements of it are very similar. And that's the same with all of them. I actually watched a video by a channel called Mad Max Bible, and I actually recommend them because they know a shit ton of Mad Max, and I learnt a lot from them. And my friend, who also loves Mad Max, watches them as well. So they're good videos. Shout out to Kit. So yeah, sorry, I've just completely lost my train of thought there. Yeah, sorry. Basically, what he said was each film takes elements from the previous and improves upon them. And in fact, there's a shot that is basically in every Mad Max film, at least in the original, where he's accelerating, slows down, the person shooting at him misses him and hits the other person going parallel, and it's stuff like that. He does similar shots, similar vehicles, similar concepts, and improves them with the bigger budget and more experience, obviously, as well. And like I said, Morton Joe's the best villain, and because also the third villain, Aunt, whatever the fuck her name was, Tina Turner, was the worst villain by quite a lot, because she wasn't really really a villain. She was just a bit of a bitch, which isn't really good. I mean, the whole third film was just weird. It was like Indiana Jones, Mad Max, and Peter Pan all in the same film, and it was just weird as fuck. They turned Mad Max into Indiana Jones. They gave him essentially what were the Lost Boys from Peter Pan, and then they just left the car element. And even then, the cars were only in it for the last 15 minutes. They had no relevance at all, really, before them. So yeah, that was a bit of a... That one's a weird one. The only thing... this also actually improves upon the Road Warrior for me, because in the original film, the Road Warrior is set before the nuclear holocaust. But when you watch Road Warrior, it really looks like it's set after the Holocaust. I can understand why it's, the breakdown of society, the cities are too dangerous to live in because it's like the purge, so everybody's gone to live in the desert. But at the same time, I prefer it being after the nuclear holocaust, because that would explain why there is literally no law and there's a bunch of fucking gimp policemen running around murdering everyone. So, it explains that a bit better, because in Fury Road, they say, right, the Road Warrior of this timeline, the events of that film are set after the nuclear holocaust, and that to me makes more sense than it being before. And also in the comic, they also acknowledge two of the policemen from the original film as well. The other, I can't remember what they're called, Special Road something, because basically the police in Mad Max don't exist. It's just there's a few pursuit people who just... They're sort of like the judges from Judge Dredd. They're just sort of like judge, jury, executioner. Sort of like just kill people. And that's it. It's a really like grim sort of way of policing the world. But, the world's gone to shit, so it doesn't matter. But, yeah, I mean... I like that they brought the car back. I didn't like that they killed it, even though it suited the plot. But if they do a fifth film, George Miller, if you do a fifth film, please... bring the car back and resist the urge to blow it up. Just for one film. Let them have it for one film. Or at least, actually give it to another character who won't blow it up. Just do something where just make a story which doesn't involve the V8 Interceptor blowing up. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Also, there's the Furiosa film coming out, which is cool. Furiosa was a great character. But essentially... I know this review is a bit back and forth and a bit all over the place, but, so is the film. The film's also back and forth and all over the place. It's fucking bonkers. It's really, really difficult to review this film, because it's not a normal film. It's not like, oh, the plot, here, go explain it. It's like, I mean, yeah, you'd have to, it's so much to talk about. But it's really difficult, and this video is going to be really long anyway. So, yeah, it's... I do recommend you watch it, though. I really do, and I recommend you watch the original films if you haven't. Tom Hardy was a great replacement for Mel Gibson. Not that I didn't want Mel Gibson. Had this film come out in the 90s like it was meant to, it would have had Mel Gibson in it, and I wouldn't have had anything against that, because obviously Mel Gibson was the original Max. He was a brilliant Max. He made the character. It's not like James Bond where a bunch of different people played it. Only 2 people played it. And only one of those people played it 3 times, and the other person only played it once. It's just because that other person who played it the one time has become one of the biggest actors in the world, because everybody loves Tom Hardy, and apart from one person I know who hates Tom Hardy, not because he doesn't like him as an acting, he just doesn't like him. And you know, and the film was big budget. You know, I mean, the first film had a budget of 300 grand, and the director used his own camper van to get wiped out by a police vehicle because it was that low budget. This one had a budget of $150 million, so they ramped it up a little bit. And it's just that sort of thing where it's only because this film has become much bigger budget, much bigger, you know, actors cast, because the original, again, Mel Gibson, it was the films that made Mel Gibson famous. You know, when you look back on it, it's famous because Mel Gibson's in it, but Mel Gibson wasn't Mel Gibson when he did it. So, you know, it's like Harrison Ford and Star Wars. It's famous, you're like, oh my god, Star Wars got Harrison Ford in it, but when Harrison Ford did it initially, he wasn't anybody, he was just a guy. And it's the same with Mel Gibson in these. So, like I said, I recommend the originals, but I really do recommend this one, because the originals feel like independent, low-budget sort of films where they got people they could find to be in it, and this one just feels like the big-budget studio version, but with still the heart and the soul of those original films, because they got the original writer, director, every job person to come back and do it. So it still has that soul. It's not like a big corporate film that doesn't really give a shit. It still has that, and that's why this film works. It is literally a huge... It's like my friend actually, again, shout out to Kit again, nailed it on the head. I'm going to use what he said. He basically said this is what like Mad Max wanted to be. The Mad Max films wanted to be when they were first made, but couldn't because they didn't have the money or the effects. Fury Road feels like... It's not the first Mad Max film, but it feels like the first complete whole Mad Max film, and I completely agree with him. He's right. That's what it is. Fury Road is, like I said, it's an improved version of The Road Warrior, because The Road Warrior is a brilliant film. The only thing it lacks in is the budget and the effects, and even then it does what it can do really well. And this one just ramps it up to 100, and there you go. That's the film. It's just big car chases, a cool cast. Your character is very reserved, and you got to tell what he's thinking through facial expressions, not through what he's saying. And he's the loner who just goes through the wasteland and ends up on all these different bizarre journeys. And it's that. And I haven't completed the game, but the game was, you know, cool as well. So yeah, I do recommend this film. I know I've said that a lot, sorry, but yeah. But like I said earlier, though. I mean, you should have watched. If you're watching this, you should have watched it, and I want to know what you think of it, because it is a very controversial film. A lot of people adore it. A lot of people say it's shit. I think it's really harsh to say it's shit because of how well made it is, but that's what it is. It's you either love it or you hate it. If you love it, tell me. If you hate it, tell me. If you're one of those rare people who think it's okay, you know, tell me as well, why is it just okay? Because I've never met somebody who's like, right. It's either, oh my god, what the fuck did I just watch? Or, oh my god, what the fuck did I just watch? So, you know, like, whatever. Just comment your opinions. If you enjoyed my review, sorry, this is probably the most back and forth and informal one I've ever done, but that's because this film is the most back and forth and informal film I've ever reviewed. So, let me know if you liked the review. Hopefully I'll do another one soon. I'm done with my top 5 films now, so I'm going to start reviewing other films. Some I'll love, some I'll hate, some I think are okay, some are good, some are bad. So, you know, let me know what you think of the review, and let me know if there's a film you want me to review as well. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe if you did enjoy it. If you didn't enjoy it, tell me why you didn't enjoy it, but leave it constructive, don't just tell me I'm a twat. So yeah, again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all soon. Thank you, bye.